Now give me my theme music.
For the second straight year, Deion Sanders is making a massive overhaul at Colorado. And we don't give a shit.
We got a few positions already taken care of because I'm bringing my luggage with me. And it's Louis.
Unsportsmanlike conduct now. Poops on Prime.
Oh man, I always forget about how long the poop lasts.
Yeah, I forget about all the fart noises.
Yep, it's time for our favorite new bit, Poops on Prime, where we find out today that Deion Sanders and Scott Frost are the same.
Whoa! Jinx.
You owe me
Here
a
was
soda.
a quote from Prime at Big 12 Media Days. Speaking of his 6 of his 8 losses last year.
Okay.
People forget Colorado lost 8 games last year.
It's a good reminder.
Look at the scores. 6 of the losses were 1-possession games. We were close. But we didn't have what we needed to get over the hump. The record was what it was. But when you're talking about progress, before we got there, ... trails off. But we were close.
We were close. The margins of victory the year before, that's totally different. You've got to check those. Folks, have you checked the scores from last year?
Oh, shoot. Do we need to put on the list if Colorado's going to onside kick at some point this year?
Oh, God. Maybe they'll do it against Nebraska.
They might. Other quotes from Prime. Sanders was jokingly angry at his athletic director, Rick George, for scheduling North Dakota State as the opener. They're really darn good, man. Like you can't give me a layup or something?
Nice. That's like what Bill Moose said.
Yeah.
Can't they give our guy easy games?
Yeah, this is all starting to sound eerily familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Like this quote from Deion Sanders about how Colorado fits into the Big 12.
Okay.
Why would we be trying to fit into anything? I ain't never tried to fit into nothing. We don't fit in, man. We fit out.
Was he talking about outfits?
The Big 12 is going to adjust to us.
Also, I love hearing John read that quote.
That was
good.
great. Can you read that again?
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Why would we be trying to fit into anything? I ain't never tried to fit into nothing. We don't fit in, man. We fit out.
That is, the conference is going to have to adjust to us.
Mm-hmm.
Man, has Prime been frost-pilled?
We fit out when you throw away your we.
Mm-hmm. And then there was this, and it will lead into a quote from Sheduer in just a moment. Brett McMurphy tweeted this out yesterday. Deion Sanders talking about how he's judged. Quote, I'm judged on a different scale. My wins are totally different than your wins.
I mean, the 4 wins from last year? Hey, he beat
Different
Nebraska.
scale. 4 wins is more than none wins.
Hey, only 7 teams beat Nebraska last year, and he was one of them.
4 wins is bigger than none wins.
Sure, but
that's true.
So here was Sheduer Sanders yesterday speaking to the press, and we actually have the audio of this so you can hear from Sheduer himself.
Perfect.
In terms of him operating with a certain obligation, does that sort of flow over to you as his son and being in the spotlight, as you just answered, that it's a different level in how you feel you have to perform? Do you have an obligation to perform at a different level?
It's been that since day one. I remember first media day when I was in HBCU, I said, we won't lose a game. I'm undefeated in the SWAC, so I already know what the expectation comes with. I know we're everybody's Super Bowl, so I'm really just I always stay level-headed, stay grounded, because I would never want to be that guy, look back, and not being able to take advantage of the moment that we have right now.
I know we're everybody's Super Bowl.
So you're going to disagree with this?
Disagree with it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why?
I have a feeling.
What do you mean, why?
I have a feeling.
How many championships do you win
Okay.
by beating Colorado?
You don't think that people love beating them, that people don't take extra satisfaction and put more into that game?
But that doesn't
But that doesn't make it their Super Bowl.
John, come on. Now we're splitting hairs.
No, we're not splitting
Yes,
any
we are.
hairs.
Yes,
no,
we are.
we're not splitting
No,
any
I'm with
hairs.
John on this.
That's fine. You guys are both wrong.
We're not splitting any hairs here.
Just because it's a
when
game
you're a
that people are going
program
to look
like
forward
Nebraska, who has played for championships, when you're any program that's played for any championships, yes, you can put more into the game or feel like you've gotten more out of it because you beat a big trash talker.
Yeah.
But it ain't no Super Bowl. That's a whole different ball of wax.
See, and that's where I say we're splitting hairs. Like, if you want to literally define it as like the biggest game that anyone has ever played in, of course it's not that. It's a huge game. Everybody wants to beat them.
He said it.
So if he would have said everybody wants to beat us, it's a really big game, you'd be okay with it. But because he said Super Bowl, that's the difference. It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
It's like Happer saying 29 is 30. It's
not,
the same
it's
thing.
It's not the same thing.
I think when he said that we're people's Super Bowl, I think he actually believes that it's a big game for everybody.
It is. Everybody wants to beat Colorado. Everybody, when they got the schedule, when all the Big 12 teams got the schedule, and they were like, who are we playing this year? And everyone saw that they were playing Colorado. They all were like, hell yes. They want to whoop them. Everybody does after last year. Everybody. Look at what Oregon did. They took so much pride and joy in smoking their asses last year.
Sure
Everybody wants to do that to them.
Of course
Everybody
they do.
is looking ahead to the Colorado
Of
game.
course they do.
So
But-
if we're
but-
defining
but-
it as the literal biggest game ever, then yes, I will admit that is a bit silly. But come on, this is a huge game for every team that plays them.
No, it is not a huge
That's
game.
crazy.
No, it is not crazy.
Man,
There's a difference between wanting to win a game because it's a big game and wanting to win a game to shut somebody up.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
And sometimes you take more pride in the latter.
When I hear somebody...
This isn't about how much pride you take into it.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with the pride. It's just you can be motivated because you're playing for something. You're playing for a title. You can also be motivated simply because you're playing a rival or you're playing someone you really want to beat. There's
And you can also be
levels of
motivated
motivation.
because like you really despise everything that they stand for. And sometimes I think the most energy goes into the last one more than the other two.
Right, but that's not what he said. He said we're everybody's Super Bowl.
See, and again, that's where I think we're picking nits. Like we are really trying to like take one little quote and make it this huge thing. When I think he is right, if it's not the biggest game anybody will ever play. I obviously would admit that. But I think he is closer to the truth than you two are.
No, he's not. Because it's not everybody's Super Bowl. Just because you want to beat somebody doesn't necessarily mean it's a bigger game on your schedule than anything else. Do you think the Colorado game is the biggest game on Nebraska's schedule?
Yes, I've said as much many times. Of course it is.
Well, that's asinine.
That's fine, but if they lose the game, John, the season will unravel. And so if they win,
and that's the problem. The weak-mindedness of people, not you, but the weak-mindedness in general of people who think if Nebraska loses this game, their whole season is unraveling.
and I think it would.
Matt Rule, you can send your angry emails to Josh at 1620thezone.
Man, how proud he knows.
This is the kind of nonsense that I am trying to tamp down.
That's fine.
Because if you're going to be a damn bit good at anything, you are not going to let one setback derail an entire season.
Well, that's the thing. I think they're going to win the game,
The biggest problem with Nebraska football the last few years is the chickens putting all the eggs in one basket. And then when the basket collapses and all the eggs break, no one knows what to do.
So what is the biggest game on the season, on the schedule then? It's not Colorado?
I don't know what the biggest game on the schedule is this year. I don't think every year has to have a biggest game on the schedule.
Mean, if you have to define every game 1 through 12, there has to be a number one.
But I don't look at it that way. Not for this year. If you're a team, yes, back in the day, the Oklahoma game was the biggest game on the schedule.
Sure.
Because Nebraska and Oklahoma had earned their level and earned their place, and you just knew that the previous 10 or 11 games, however many there were, Nebraska and Oklahoma were going to win those games, and they were going to set up the big dance at the end of the season. But Nebraska's not in that position right now.
And that's why the Colorado game is the biggest, because they are not in that position, because they are a fragile program, and they have been a fragile program.
I disagree.
You just walked me right into the reason why the Colorado game is the biggest game. They're not that program anymore, and they haven't been for a long time.
But there's a difference between that. Why is it the biggest game?
Because I think if they win the game, it allows them to slingshot moving forward, and if they lose it,
by beating a team that won 4 games last year.
Again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. you got to beat this team. You got to get past this team. You got to prove to yourself that you can handle a big moment, and this is a big moment for this program. That is inarguable. It's a huge moment. Everybody knows it's a huge moment.
It's a huge moment. Why?
What do you mean, why? Come on, man. It's
Colorado.
a huge
moment. Why?
It's the rival. They beat you last year.
A program that has been garbage.
Come on, man.
Josh, it's a program that has been garbage for 20 years.
Then why are we approaching this game, and why are we as a station going to treat this like it is the biggest game on the schedule? Because even we know it is. Come on, it is. It's okay.
No, it is not the biggest game on the schedule.
We're not going to do anything on the station anywhere near what we do for the Colorado.
Would you stop?
Are we not?
Would you stop? So what? So what that we're going to be there?
Right. I'm just saying.
There's a difference between it's a big game because the fans really want it,
and the players,
and a big game
and the
because
coaches.
What you've heard Matt Rule talk about this? You've heard the players saying how big this is.
You don't think if you got him with a little truth serum and you brought up this game that he wouldn't admit this game is freaking massive for our program? You don't think that that's the case? Of course, this game is huge. It's inarguable. I'm not going to hear that it's not. It is.
Yeah, but I'm also.
You don't want
I'm
it to
also
be.
not going to surrender myself.
I'm not either. But I'm
or
also
anybody
not
else
on the
to
team.
the idea that in Nebraska, if they don't win this game, they're going to collapse, or if they win this game, they're going to launch to the moon.
You have more faith than I do.
Because if you're going to build a program the way I think Matt Rule wants to build the program in the right way, you're going to treat this similar to what Osborne used to do. That's what you're going to do.
But
now that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean something to beat that team, and that you don't really want to beat that team because they've given you bulletin board material or whatever other emotion. But I don't know if this is the biggest game on the schedule.
I think you are applying your own feelings towards it, and you don't.
I think you're applying your own feelings to this. We all apply our own feelings to this.
You don't want this game to mean that much, and for a variety of reasons. And I hear the reasons.
I want this game to mean something.
You just don't want it to mean everything.
Because I've seen what happens when fragile people put all their eggs in one basket and the basket collapses.
But what happened in all those games that you're bringing up when they lost them? It did do that. That's what I think would happen. That's why it is.
But there's a difference because this is strictly about emotion. This isn't about the quality of the opponent. This is strictly about emotion.
100%.
All those other eggs in the basket games were against good programs.
Sure.
Winning programs.
Definitely.
Who represented, hey, we got to beat these guys if we're going to make this step. Winning or losing this Colorado game is not, in my opinion, going to advance Nebraska any further as a program or necessarily drop it any further behind unless they allow it to.
Agreed, which is why I think it's that big of a game. Because
But Scott Frost isn't the coach anymore.
That's fine.
I believe that Matt Rule, if he's going to do this the right way, that's the way you have to look at it.
As always, I keep saying I think they're going to win the game, so that's why
I do too.
So there you go.
But anyway,
it's funny. We will never agree on this. We have argued about this all off season long.
No, we're not gonna agree on it. But come on, man, he's calling it the Super Bowl. Do you think we got
national championship? Same thing.
National championship.
I was making a joke there. It's a huge game. It's inarguable. Every team wants to beat them. They will be bulletin board material for every team that they play. It's the biggest game for everybody.
Kansas State was bulletin board material back in the day.
It's not back in the day, John. It's 2024 now.
I'm just giving you comparisons to other years where teams who rattled their Colorado. The difference was when Colorado rattled off its mouth back in the 90s, they were actually good.
They were. But you know what? So was Nebraska. They're not anymore. Got to start somewhere, though.
Yeah, it's called UTEP.
Okay. I'm not going to pretend that UTEP is the biggest game. We're not going to do that. We are radio hosts. We don't have to go one game at a time.
Oh, I'm not.
You just did. You brought up UTEP.
I just brought it up because it's the first game on the schedule.
Yeah, dorks. Anyone who does that, you're a dork. Sorry that Nick didn't get to say a whole lot of words. Someone said earlier he should raise his hand.